when the treatment takes as much of a toll on a person's body as the breast cancer, then you've got a problem. This young woman had insurance but had to give it up. This young woman had a job but had to quit. This happens sometimes when you're dealing with breast cancer. Not everything works like it should, but she's alive today, and the reason is because she didn't give up. Let's talk about your breast. A different kind of podcast presented to you by The Rose, a breast center of excellence and a Texas treasure. You're going to hear frank discussions about tough topics, and you're going to learn why knowing about your breast could save your life. Join us as we hear another story and we answer those tough questions that you may have. Hi, I'm Dorothy Gibbons, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of the Rose Breast Imaging Center of Excellence. And we're here today to talk about your breast. And today we have with us Lilia Avila, and she is an employee of the Rose. She's been with us for 11 years. She works as a mobile coordinator and is responsible for helping all of our schedules be organized and patients called and all of our partners alerted in our mobile mammography program. Now, usually on this program, we try to bring you as much uplifting information and positive information as we can. But our other pledge to you is that the information you hear will be factual and will give you insight onto the different aspects of breast cancer, breast health, and breast cancer treatment. So, Lily, welcome.
Thank you.
Lily's story is a little different. She had quite a time of it during treatment, and we're gonna ask her more about it. But we just feel like it's important that our listeners know not every woman is the same when she goes through breast cancer. Not every treatment is the same. There's different levels of treatment, different levels of anxiety, of concern. And we all have someone that we're probably more worried about than ourselves during this time. So, Lila, when you were diagnosed, you were very young.
Yes.
42?
42.
And how did it come about?
I felt something on my breast, felt a lump, and I was very scared. So made an appointment right away to get it checked.
Had you ever had a mammogram before?
I did 2 prior.
So at that time you were working with us?
Yes.
Yes. And tell me, how long did it take for you to go through the process?
I scheduled my mammogram and waited about 3 weeks after that. Looked like a cyst, characteristics of a cyst. It was bothering me a lot, so scheduled an aspiration. Turns out needed a biopsy. Wasn't a cyst. Got it a biopsy done, and results came back pretty quick that I was positive for cancer. Yeah.
So you kind of had a quasi things are going to be all right period of time, thinking it was a cyst.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And many times we hear women who say, oh, my doctor said that's just a cyst. But the issue is it may not be just a cyst. And if there's not any fluid extracted from it, you pretty better go ahead and have that biopsy. So then what was the next part of this process for you?
I was referred to an oncologist. Patient navigation helped me a little because at that point, I'm clueless to what I'm going to do. Even though I work at the Rose, you don't realize until it hits you, what is my next step? So I was kind of scared, had so many questions, but at the same time didn't know what all to ask or what I was going to miss. So patient navigation helped me through this and was referred to an oncologist. So
Lily, you're Hispanic.
Yes.
You're one of our special Spanish-speaking employees who can relate to a lot of our patients, and you know that more of our diagnosed patients are Spanish-speaking than any of our other populations. So did you have any cultural concerns? Is it something that Hispanic women talk about a lot, or?
Yes. Well, a lot of Hispanic women I feel like they're very scared, or they want to get checked. But once they know, they're still scared, or they're like, I don't really want to know. They're scared to go through the treatment, ask for help, don't know if they're going to be reported, if they're undocumented. So we see that a lot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, you did have insurance at the time.
I did.
But along the way, you were pretty sick.
Very sick, yes.
But it was primarily because of the treatment?
Yes.
And you had chemotherapy?
Correct.
Yes. And surgery?
And surgery.
So, Lily, during your treatment, it was pretty rough. Yeah. You were working and trying to maintain the hours that you normally had, but you were also, because you were working full-time, had insurance. And so what happened during that time?
So during that time, I was too sick to be at work, only worked very minimum hours. I couldn't afford to keep paying for insurance at the time, so I decided to go part-time. And then I dropped my insurance, applied for Medicaid, so I could relieve some of that stress. It was very hard.
Yeah, and no matter what, cancer treatment is expensive, whether you're dealing with copays or you're dealing with the medications you need or any of the things that keep you from being so sick. Many times insurance doesn't even cover the nausea medicine. So, and appreciate you being so honest with you because, a lot of folks go, oh, well, you're going to get sick, but they don't realize that it can get pretty devastating and it can interfere with all of your work and all of your life. In fact, now you're a single mother. 2 boys were still at home at the time, right?
Yes.
And what happened when this all came down to where you simply couldn't work the hours you were working?
Well, I couldn't work anymore. I couldn't maintain bills, insurance, everything. So I had to move out and move to my daughter's house, primarily for someone to take care of me when I've always taken care of them. And I needed that now. So she helped. And financial burden, I didn't want to impose that on anybody. So I just kept working a little just to keep paying for my stuff. I applied for the Medicaid to help with the medical bills because it became a lot.
Right. And you're talking about the Breast and Cervical Cancer Services Program,
correct,
which is a Medicaid product, and it is available through the state for women who are low income and can't keep their insurance up. And so even though you were working and you were employed, did you ever feel like you might find yourself with no money at all or not employed, or were you more concerned about recovery?
Both. I just, when it hit me, I thought, what am I going to do about work? How am I going to keep working? How am I going to feel to continue to work, to support my family? So it was very hard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I hear often that our uninsured women are sometimes more concerned about how am I going to pay for this, than they are how will I recover, which is completely the opposite with the insured woman. Her first thought is, I hope I get through. How am I going to recover? Will I survive this? But I certainly hear that often, that concern about paying for the treatment is just top of mind.
Yes, definitely. You think, am I going to be here? Am I going to survive this? Is the treatment going to work for me? Who's going to take care of my little one financially? Am I going to be here for him later? It was a lot of questions.
So tell me the ages of your children again.
I have a 31, 30, and 14.
And at that time, how old were your children?
My little one was 8.
And how did you tell him?
It was very hard. I didn't want to scare him. A lot of kids think it's something contagious, which I kind of went through a little with him. But I told him that I was very sick. He's heard about cancer. I told him, Mom has cancer. But I have a very good doctor, and he's going to treat me, and I'm going to go through treatment so Mom can feel better. And it's going to take a little while. I might be sick some days, and I can't help you all the time, but his siblings are great caregivers for him as well.
Yeah. But 8 years old, he was in what grade?
What is that? Third, fourth, I think. Third,
yes.
fourth.
And so that's a lot for a young child to take in.
Oh, yes.
And did your family act differently to you after they found that out? All of them? Your older children, younger?
Oh, yes. It was very hard for my daughter. And I don't blame her. You start thinking about what if it happens to me? Mm-hmm. And that's what she thought. Oh my God, family history now. I didn't have family history of it. So it was very hard for her. We're very close to each other. So my kids took it very, very hard. It's very difficult.
So in the Hispanic culture, would you have known that you had family history? Is there openness about breast cancer, like for your grandmother or great aunt or any of that kind of relationship?
It's Hispanic people, older Hispanic people didn't really talk much about if somebody was sick like that. You don't get a straight answer from them. Mm-hmm. So it is hard. And we've had no cancer history ever. So it's very difficult for people to open up. Yes.
My mother had cancer, and it wasn't breast cancer, but I can remember that the whole family was calling it something different. Well, she has a woman's disease, or she has, and they all said, we've never had anyone in our family with any kind of cancer. So, we all come from backgrounds that maybe people didn't talk about it, or there wasn't that openness, and it just wasn't done. That so many women have, since they were diagnosed, found out they actually did have mm-hmm. someone in their family that had it, and it's. I think it's very important that, and I'm sure you have felt the same with your daughter. You're going to make sure everyone knows it now. Yes. There is, yeah.
Oh yes. I have an aunt who, my dad's half sister. She had cancer, I believe, started in her bones, but it might have, metastasized, so it was breast. And I said, so what is it? Which was it? But nobody wants to talk about it. I don't know. So we really don't know because they didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah. And that's an important message for you to send.
Yes.
To all women, but especially to women who might not even be open to that.
Definitely.
Do you find yourself advocating for young women?
I do. I feel like everybody needs to take care of themselves. I have women who call and say, oh, well, I'll just do it another day. Oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, I'll wait till next year if I can't get in. I'm like, no, let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. So try to get them an appointment. Mm-hmm. Try to figure out what their needs are. It's very important.
You've had a lot of trouble with that, though, when you hear patients kind of blowing it off. And
yes, I do. People want to put off getting mm-hmm. tested. It's a simple test. It's preventative. Why not know now? Why wait until it's too late?
Mm-hmm. Did your coworkers treat you any differently?
They didn't. I got a lot of love from them. They were very helpful. I had amazing coworkers. They're great. So they helped me out a lot.
So I remember the time after you were in treatment and you had a scarf on and you came up to the office, and I truly didn't recognize you, did I? No. I mean, you kept saying, you really don't know who I am. And I knew your eyes. You have those stunning eyes, but I kept going, I know this person. But so cancer has many different effects on us. It has a lot of impact. And sometimes people don't realize that they're reacting whether they even know it. And it's, thank goodness you cleared that. Thank goodness you allowed me to have that moment of not knowing, you were very generous with that. Some people might have taken offense, and I always thought so much of you for that. That was really special to me.
Yeah.
Were you surprised about any of your treatment? I know you said that there were a lot of things you didn't know, but did any part of it really surprise you?
I didn't know how I was going to feel. Was this going to work for me? There was some treatment that wasn't working for me at the very beginning. It stopped. They had to change it out. I did clinical trials, so that helped me a lot. So I was really concerned about how was this going to work for me? Was this going to cure me?
So did you have any concerns going into a clinical trial?
It did, because, when you think about clinical trial, you don't really know if has this worked for other people. I was curious to know, but it's a clinical trial. They can't say much, but I'm glad I did it.
Oh, yeah. And you'd encourage others if they're not responding to the treatment to try that. Yes. Were you ever angry about being diagnosed?
I was like, why me? Why do I have to get this? Why? I just, I have no family history of it. So why did this happen to me?
Did you feel like you had done something wrong? Or this was some kind of, really?
I did. What? I would always ask myself, oh my God, what did I do to deserve this? I did.
And that's not unusual.
No, I questioned it a lot.
I just haven't heard you say that before.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did. I cried a lot. There was days I couldn't get up. And I would tell my daughter, I'm going to stop this. I'm not going to do this no more. I was mad. But I'm glad I did it. Mm-hmm. And I'll do it again if I need to.
So you were telling her you're going to stop treatment because it was so hard.
Because it was so hard, because I was so sick. Mm-hmm. There was days I was 6 days straight sick. I couldn't even come to work. Then you worry about work, worry about everything. So it was very hard.
Now, how long ago was this?
I am 6 years out already.
Oh, congratulations. Yes. Yeah, you've met that 5-year magical mark. Yes, yes. Do you always identify yourself as a survivor? I mean, when you think of Lily, is that the top label you put on yourself or the top description?
At first I did, but now it's like I'm over it. I'm good, Mm-hmm. But at the very beginning, I survived this. I kicked its butt.
You did. You certainly did.
I did.
Yeah. And you continue to have your annual mammograms?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Any other scares or anything?
I've had another scare. I did have surgery again after that, precancerous. Mm. So they found it on my mammogram, my ultrasound, actually. Oh. I have very dense breasts, so very hard to find. So it's very important when you get that letter saying you need an ultrasound, things can be hiding. So
Absolutely.
There was something there, and I had surgery, and it was removed. No treatment. Precancerous, though.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Scary time, though.
Scary situation. Oh, yes. I thought for sure I have cancer again, but I'm going to do this again if I have to. Yeah.
For your kids, probably.
Yes.
Also for yourself.
Oh, yes.
So, do you feel stronger since then or more vulnerable or?
I feel like if I did it once, I can do this again, And
you're back working full time?
I am.
Carrying your own?
Not quite full time, almost. It's taken a toll on my body. I've developed one of the aftermath of that is neuropathy. So that kind of has not ever gone away.
So explain to our listeners what that means.
Neuropathy is your nerves. Mm-hmm. It affects your nerves.
In your feet, in your hands?
Oh, yes, your feet, your hands, you feel sharp pains. My right hand's always numb, hard to pick up small stuff. I don't ever feel, I could only feel my pinky. And it's caused a lot of damage to my nervous system. I've just recently, a couple weeks ago, was actually clinically diagnosed fibromyalgia. So now I'm taking medication for that. Osteoarthritis, chemo kind of advanced that. So it's deterioration of your bones. Mm-hmm. So it's been hard, but I'm still here.
You're still here.
I'm still here.
Yeah. And again, that's something that not everybody talks about. There can be lasting effects, and it's not the end of the world, but it's certainly difficult to have to continue to deal with it. So what would you tell your 42-year-old self now that you didn't think of then? What would you say to her now?
You got this. You're a fighter. You got it.
And that's a big part of this.
Yes.
Yes. And you had absolute belief in your doctors and your treatment.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Another big part.
Oh, yes. He's great. He was great.
So, Lily, what's your dream for your children?
I want them to strive and overcome everything and do great at school. And I'll be glad when my last one is in college. He's very smart. He can do stuff. Like, he's amazing. And I want to be there to see that.
And you will be.
Yes.
And that's the other thing you'd say to that 42-year-old.
Oh, yes.
You're going to stay around. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's the best message you can send to anyone about a cancer experience.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And for sure, tell these women, get your mammogram done. It's very important.
Mm-hmm. And you're adamant that it's done every year.
Oh, yes. I don't skip. That's one thing I do not skip.
Now, I want you to think about young women who think they're too young to have breast cancer. Any other advice to them?
I don't think no one's ever too young. We have very young diagnosed patients here at the Rose. Cancer doesn't discriminate. Men get it too. It's very important to get it done every year.
And then I heard you say this before, but I think your final message is to take care of yourself.
Oh, yes.
And
everyone needs to take care of themselves. If you don't take care of yourself, who's going to take care of your young children? Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of women don't take care of themselves and say, oh, I'll put it off. But who's going to take care of my child while I'm doing chemo or while I'm going through treatment? But who's going to be there for your kid when you're not here and you didn't do what you had to do?
And, of course, I know you're very, very grateful for your family being so close, so responsive, so ready to help you.
Very.
And that support always means a lot.
It is. Yeah. Family support is number one. It's needing that person there by your side.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Lily, for sharing your experience and being so open and honest about what you went through, and for telling us some of the harder to listen to and more difficult parts of that treatment. I so appreciate you and are so glad that you're beyond that 6-year point.
Oh, yes. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on Let's Talk About Your Breasts. This podcast is produced by Freddie Cruz Creative Works and brought to you by The Rose. Visit therose.org to learn more about our organization. Subscribe to our podcast, share episodes with friends, and join the conversation on social media using hashtag Let's Talk About Your Breasts. We welcome your feedback and suggestions. Consider supporting The Rose. Your gift can make the difference to a person in need. And remember, self-care is not selfish. It's essential.